Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic, and today we're going to be reading another amazing article from the Mary Sue. The Mary Sue, everybody, is just... If you have never experienced the Mary Sue, you don't know what you're missing out of life because... oh, there's so many amazing things. So this is No, I Don't Want a Black Buffy Reboot, and Here's Why by Princess Weeks. Alright. A lot to unpack there already, but let's just dive right in. Alright, what does this have to say? When the news broke over the weekend announcing that Joss Whedon was not only launching a Buffy reboot, but doing so with a black female lead, my reaction was a very heavy sigh? Really? Why would you be sighing at that? I thought you wanted more inclusion. I thought that you wanted more diversity in casting. So what's the problem? Is this not good enough for you? I'd love to hear your response. There was a time when this kind of news would have excited me in ways I can't even explain. Okay, so what's going on here? Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one of my favorite shows. In spite of many things, not only am I interested in a reboot, but this move to make the lead black, as reported by Deadline, is just a bad move on multiple levels for me. Don't get me wrong, it's not inclusive casting that I'm objecting to. I just want black women to get their own stories. Okay, who's stopping them? Who's stopping anyone from writing those stories? And why is it that a story that is going to be a continuation, essentially not even a reboot, but a sequel to the original Buffy series, why is that not good enough for you? What about Buffy is inherently white? This is what I just don't understand about SJW nonsense. This is what I do not understand about SJW philosophy, is that it just does not make any damn sense. They fight and cry for diversity, and then when diversity is given to them in a series that doesn't even have to be made at this point, it's like, oh, it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. We need our own stories. Okay, write that story. Instead of writing this article, Princess at the Mary Sue, why don't you write that story? You're a writer. You're someone who obviously knows how to put sentences together. I'm sure that you could probably come up with a script. Write that damn story. No one's stopping you from doing that. It's the same criticism that I had of Brie Larson. Everyone's like, oh, you know, Brie Larson was like, oh my goodness, we need more diversity in film criticism. No one is stopping them. Because of the age that we live in with the internet, you can easily record yourself. You can easily do so many different things to get your voice and your opinion out there. No one is going to stop that. Now, whether or not people are going to want to watch it, that is something that you cannot force. See, the problem is that with the SJWs is that they don't just want these stories. They don't just want diversity. They want people to want it, and they want people to want to watch it. They want someone to want to watch a story about a black character living a black lifestyle by a black writer, by a black actor, by a black director, and all these other things. And at the end of the day, most people just don't care. Because why? Not because we're racist, not because we're sexist. It's because all that we really care about is it a good story that we want to see, that we will be entertained by, or it isn't. Because if we're not, if it's something that doesn't appeal to us, then we're not going to watch it. And guess what? Most of the time, the race and the gender don't matter. When I go to see a Marvel film, when I go to see any real, any big budget film, the question I don't ask is, oh man, I wonder what the race and gender of the lead is. I don't care. Most people do not care about those things. Now, some people might say, oh, well, that's just a sign that you're part of the patriarchy, and oh, it's because you're white privilege that you can't see why that's a problem. It's like, no, it's because I know what stories I like. I know what stories I like, I know what actors I like, and guess what? They all come from a variety of backgrounds. All the different writers that I like, all the different stories, all the different actors I write, guess what? They're not all the same. They're not all white people. They're not even all men. Oh, what a shock. What a shock. You want to know why? Because I care if someone's talented, if they're good at their craft. I care if a story is good and worth telling. Now, of course, the whole worth telling thing, that is a matter of subjective opinion. I understand that. But you cannot tell me that, oh my goodness, you have to like this story, or otherwise you're a racist or a sexist. No, it just does not work that way. Whew, getting worked up already. Yeah, as y'all can see, no sarcasm today, or at least not an entirely sarcastic video, because this article and this website in general is really starting to piss me off with its just complete and utter nonsense. So what he says is, don't get me wrong, I'm not objecting to that. I just want black women to get their own stories. No one is stopping you. Write those stories. Buffy Summers, as played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, was a rebooted character herself, improving upon the 1992 film that starred Christy Swanson, and over the course of 7 seasons, that version of Buffy was the one that people have connected with and out of whom this huge fandom has grown. Sarah Michelle Gellar is Buffy. Any African-American actress who enters the role is forever going to be known as Black Buffy, and that's something I find frustrating. Well, first off, maybe this article was written before the news came out that this was not going to be a reboot, that she was not going to be Buffy, she was going to be a new Slayer. And maybe that was the case, but also, oh my goodness gracious, don't want the character to be known as Black Buffy. No, instead, you want an entirely different character written. Probably, I'd imagine you want it written by a black writer and black director, black actor. In fact, the entire production team should be black. Again, is there anything wrong with that? No. Now, I do think there's something wrong if you're hiring and casting someone just based on the color of their skin. I kind of think there's a problem with that in the long run, especially when it's a story that's not based on race. At no point does Buffy being a white woman have anything to do with her character. So that's the reason why when the series was going on, guess what? Almost any single woman of any background could be a Slayer. That story just focused on Buffy. So even if you didn't know that going forward, even if you didn't know that this was not a reboot, but instead a continuation of the story, or rather instead a sequel to the story essentially, it's still that whole concept of Black Buffy. It's like, my goodness. All right. I would be remiss if I didn't note that, yes, Monica Awusu-Breen is a black woman and will be the showrunner on the project. Yes, because that is what matters. The show will only be good. The show can only appeal to black people if there is a black showrunner and a black actor and a black director. Is that right? Is that what you're trying to say? Because we hear this a lot. Like, oh my goodness, like, look at the diversity. Diversity for the sake of diversity is not good. I'm not, questioning Monica's abilities. I'm not doing that at all. But the fact that the people react in this way just really makes you wonder. It's like, what are you trying to get across? What is the whole point of what you're trying to say? Why does that have to be important? Why can't it just be someone who is talented? Why couldn't it just be Monica, who has done this, this, and this, who should be very good for the show? Instead, it's like, oh, Monica, who is a black woman and will be show running it, and therefore, if it does happen, I'm excited for that, because getting a black female showrunner is a rare opportunity no matter the circumstances. So if I have anything positive to say off the bat, it's that. I'm glad Awusu-Breen has the job. I'm sure she will be great at it, but my problem is that Buffy is never going to belong to her. But again, it goes back to that main point that I was trying to say, is that you think that it's positive just because she is a black woman who's in charge of a show. I think that can be problematic, especially for the future, because if the main thing that you care about, if whether something is good or bad, or whether a decision is good or bad, is based off of the race and gender of a person, that is inherently what racism and sexism is. So it's amazing to me that the people who cry racism, cry sexism, including this article, which is saying that Black Buffy it seems to be they're trying to say that it's inherently racist in some way, even with a black showrunner and a black actress, that somehow, it's gonna be hard to get. It's gonna be so hard to finish this, guys. All right, having a black showrunner and casting a black actress will not give the ownership of this series to this new incarnation. From the very beginning, it will be held to be an unreasonably high standard and will be compared in terms of writing, acting to the original. And if this show doesn't go on the last 7 seasons, it'll just be looked at as a failed attempt to update a popular series. All the flaws will be its own, and anything good will be attributed to Whedon's influence. So trying to say that, oh yeah, if it's a flop, it's going to be because, people are going to think, oh, it's because of race, it's because of gender, it's because of these things. It has nothing to do with anything else. No, most people would just say, no, this was something that should have been done, because I think that's what most people, when they heard Buffy's being rebooted, thought, that's stupid. Even before the name of the actress, even before any of the background of the writers or the producers came out, guess what? Most people thought, why are you doing this? Why can't you make an original story? So I agree with you there. There should be more original stories. I disagree with the whole, like, oh, it should be this, it should be this race, this gender, etc. Obviously, I just want anyone to write any good story about any character, and as long as it's good, as long as it's a good character, and as long as it's written very well, that should be what is, that should be what the standard is, not what their race or gender is. But for some reason, these people just do not understand it. For some reason, these SJWs just do not understand what is actually going on or how to figure these things out. It boggles my mind. But no, I do agree with you to this point. Princess, I think is what your name was. I do agree with you to that point where I do think that they shouldn't reboot this series. But it's totally opposite of what you're trying to, or at least it's very different from what your complaint. I don't really understand what your complaint's coming from. That's why I wish ultimately that this and even the upcoming Charm series, again, why are they rebooting these series? Why do they have to do these things? It's the same reason, like, why did Ava DuVernay have to make A Wrinkle in Time about race when the story, when you read it, has nothing to do with race? And yet she had to make it about race, and that's the reason why her and Brie Larson were critical of the backlash, were critical of the criticism that they were receiving for the film, saying, oh, well, I don't care what a white man has to say about the film, I care about what a mixed race person has to say. It's like, no, that doesn't change the fact that it's a bad film. Does not change the fact that we should not have these series going forward. Black and non-white creators have our own vampire series that could be up for adaptation. There's L.A. Banks, the Vampire Huntress legend, Octavia Butler's Fledgling, if it loses the age issues, and Gilda Stories by Jewel Gomez, which is about a bisexual vampire from the 1850s. Yeah, good luck writing those stories. See, it's so funny because it's like, oh, we need our own stories, and then when you talk about the stories, who is it going to be made for? Because if it's just going to be made for black audiences, if it's just going to be made for African American audiences, if it's just going to be made for a small subset of society, then why are you trying? I just don't. All right, I think we're. Oh my God, really? We're not done yet, Lord. Unless original work from creators of color gets made, it'll never belong to that community. We will never get to say Buffy the Vampire Slayer and not have it belong to Joss Whedon and Sarah Michelle Gellar first and foremost, and considering Joss Whedon and the way he wrote women of color and people of color in the past, it's not the best place to start. Again, why does every little thing have to be about race and gender with SJW mindsets? Why is race and gender? Every article that I've read from the Mary Sue so far is only about race and gender. To me, it just boggles my mind, because if you stay so focused on those things, if you stay so focused on those it's just, you lose everything. You lose any sense of good storytelling if that's all that you care about. Because then you get blinded by your own racism and your own sexism when a story comes out. A story that might not be very good, and yet because, oh, it's an original story by a black writer, it's for the black community, doesn't mean it's a good story. Doesn't mean people are going to want to watch it. And also it doesn't mean that if I don't want to watch it and don't think it's very good, then I'm a racist, or that my opinion is somehow less valid than someone else's. And in that regard, I can't be excited. I can't be excited because I can already imagine all the crap the actress who plays Buffy will get, because that's what happens when black actresses are given roles that used to belong to white characters. The sense of belonging. No, it's when a bad adaptation is done. It's when a poorly written, poorly acted representation is done. Again, it has nothing to do with the race of the person. It has everything to do with whether it's done well or not. And no, I'm sorry, Buffy doesn't belong to a white actress. That is nonsense. Again, when you look to Buffy and what it did and what it said about Slayers in general, it's that any person, any woman from any background could be a Slayer. I don't understand. Like, so Buffy is actually, if I actually wanted this series to be made, Buffy would be the perfect play. That would be the perfect story to use, because guess what? Buffy does not have to be, or the Vampire Slayer does not have to be a white person. It does not belong to that. And people who saw it, who were critical of it, it would not be because, or at least for the vast majority of people, it would not be because she happens to be black. That would have nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. I wish Monica Owusu Breen luck, and I will absolutely support this series as it goes forward. Okay, so you're critical of it, but I'm still going to support it because I got to support, you know, my race. Like, but I also wish that this wasn't just rebooting Buffy. It'd be better if it were a spin-off series with a Black Slayer, which could still turn out to be the case with the show still in early development, because then at least she could be her own person. But even that doesn't have the same benefits as something wholly original. And so basically she goes on, and again, the news has come out that it is now going to be a spin-off. It's going to be a sequel, so it's going to be a new person. It's not going to be someone playing Buffy. But you know, that being the case, even that is not enough. Even that is not enough, because this person just wants a black story, which I'm sorry, but like, why can't stories be universal? Why can't stories be for everyone? Why can't stories have diversity in characters, in backgrounds? I have no problem with diversity. What I have a problem with is this idea of forced diversity, this idea that it has to be this way in order for it to be good for this particular community. I don't buy into that. I know a lot of other people don't buy into that, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So guys, what are your thoughts on this Mary Sue article? Do you agree with me, or do you agree with Princess? Please let me know in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate that, guys. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It would be awesome for you to do that. Y'all are amazing. I love y'all so much. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.